Welcome to What's Up, Bolts? I'm Fernando Ramirez. He is Dan and Daygo. We are back for episode two of this. Let's do a little Brian.
Oh my God. I refuse. I refuse. I know where this is going. Just because we're family doesn't mean I have to partake in this too.
He had, I think, one of the worst weekends I think anybody could have. Obviously, with the it's just a terrible
Worst
weekend for
start
Brian Kelly.
to a tenure possible, dude.
Oh,
Worst
I know.
start.
But you know what? This weekend is going to be a good weekend for Dan and Daygo and for football fans everywhere because the NFL is back. It is finally
Let's
here.
Freaking go.
Oh, look at him. He's excited. He's ready to go. Speaking of excitement, Dan, do you know who we got on the show to break down the Las Vegas Raiders? None other than ESPN's Paul Gutierrez. He's the beat reporter for ESPN covering all things Raiders. He's been on the beat since they were in Oakland. He remembers the Napa Valley training camp, all that stuff. So Paul's gonna come in. He's gonna break down the Raiders for us, and we go behind enemy lines and see what's cooking up in Las Vegas. So definitely excited for that. But Dan, good. So you're excited for this season to start. You're ready for some NFL action.
I cannot wait to switch from the dang baseball to football. I can't stand it anymore. We were right before this watching Padres versus I don't even remember who. That's how boring it is. I can't stand it. I don't want it. I'm tired. I'm tired of all these other sports. Don't want it. Don't need it. I'll take the wrestling. That's about it during the summer. Maybe a World Cup. Other than that, I don't want it. Soccer's over. In my mind, when soccer's over, all the sports are over. And I'm waiting for football come.
There's a lot of soccer coming. There's a lot of soccer coming towards you, but we're not a soccer show yet. We're talking. We're just. Oh, what? Are you foreshadowing? So obviously, just real quick before we get to the interview with Paul, these new additions that the Chargers have made, obviously, not just the Chargers, but the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Raiders.
What?
And if you were at a poker table, I describe this as I feel like all four teams have gone all in, and let's see what happens with all the mayhem.
Who's gonna blink?
Who's gonna blink?
That's the only question that's left. Guess who's not gonna blink? Your boy Dan and Daygo with these shades. I ain't blinking. Even if I did, you wouldn't know. Can't see me.
I know some of the players, they're not old enough to remember it. Marty Schottenheimer back in the day called this Raider Week.
Dude.
I remember LT, Sean Merriman, Sean Phillips, even Phillip Rivers, Antonio Gates. These guys would get fired up for Raider Week because they knew what was coming. They knew it was a rivalry. I don't think it's like that anymore because of the way the fans have, or the way the players are kind of unified and everything.
Soft.
But I still feel like there is a little bit of a bad taste left in the Chargers' mouth from last season. If you guys don't remember, the Chargers were in a win-in situation against the Raiders. They end up falling short at the end of the game. You know, it's funny, Dan. I was watching Peter King drove with Brandon Staley from his house to the facility, and he interviewed him, and he asked him, "What do you regret the most about that game? Is it the fourth down to Austin Eckler?" He said, "No. Right before they kicked the field goal to win the game, we had gone into our into our personnel to be able to stop the run. The Raiders end up making a motion that threw us completely off, and that's how they were able to gain the 10 yards to kick the field goal and win it. It was my mistake. I should have done better. I should have I should have foreshadowed that they were going to go into motion, and that's my mistake. And I wish." He didn't say he wished he could have it all over again, but he said that he does think about that play. So I'm sure that game still haunts them a little bit. What do you think?
Well, that's the biggest thing, right? Like, football is a chess match. Like, yeah, you might sacrifice a pawn here and there, but then here comes the king over the top or whatever you want. You know what I mean? I'm not a chess player. I'm low IQ. I'm not high IQ for those games. But I mean, those are the things that, like, you have to, that it's like, it is what it is. And it's like, it's just like that famous rule that I love, the 24-hour rule. No matter if you win or you lose, you have 24 hours to either enjoy it or sulk in it. And it's time to get ready to work because the rent's due every freaking week, Frau. The rent is due. And when is it due for the Chargers? It's due this Sunday, especially because it's not obviously like the revenge game thing to me is stupid because it doesn't have the same meaning. It doesn't have the same meaning of winning you're in. And but other than that, I mean, it is what it is. All you can do is learn from your mistakes. Obviously now there's no excuses. He has a way better defense than he did last year. Half of those jokers shouldn't have been starting in the first place. You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
And it's like, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, I didn't want to say hunt. I just meant like they think, like you could tell Staley does think about it and some of the players. But as soon as, like you said, as soon as the season starts, it's gonna be completely just focused on the here and now and everything. 100%. Obviously, they haven't played a game together, so that's why they're still kind of focused. They still sometimes talk about the last season's games because they haven't played any new ones this season. But
well, he must be super anxious too, just because of that fact also that they haven't played together. Like there's so much hype, there's so much expectation, and everything else. Now it's time to execute. Rent's due on Sunday, dude.
Speaking of time, it is time to get to our interview with Paul Gutierrez from ESPN. Let's see what knowledge Paul can drop about the Las Vegas Raiders.
Get it cooking. Get it cooking.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's Raiders week if we don't have one of the best Raider reporters out there in ESPN's Paul Gutierrez? He's a Barstow native. He's a compa. He's an OG. He's everything you want. Paul, thank you so much for joining us. And how did training camp treat you? I think the weather out there was just abysmal. So, and I saw a lot of rain. I saw a lot of heat. So how did training camp go for you?
It was just another confirmation that the Raiders never should have left Napa for our training camp anyway. It's crazy. And maybe in some ways it'll toughen them up if they want to look at it that way for the season, because I don't know if any other team went through anything like what they went through. I mean, there was one day at practice where it was 110 degrees when they started, and then it was 78 because a monsoon roared through and started flooding everything. So life in the desert, I grew up in the desert, as you noted, in Barstow, and I went to UNLV. So it was nothing shocking to me. I had seen it growing up, but to see an NFL team have to deal with things like that. Plus the Raiders, they reported a week before everybody else did because they played in the Hall of Fame game. Even the Jaguars, who they played in that game, they said, no, we're good. We don't need that extra week. So they stayed back. So it seems, man, like I'm like, okay, I'm ready for the season to wrap up here. No, we're getting ready to start. At least it's for real now. At least it's for real.
Exactly. And it starts this weekend. Chargers, Raiders, why not? It's funny. This is actually the first time the Chargers have ever started, have played the Raiders at home in an opener ever. So that's pretty interesting because the Chargers have gone to the Raiders for home openers. But this one seems interesting, Paul. It seems like the AFC West has really gone. Now we're all in Vegas. We're all at the poker table. It seems like all teams have gone all in, and they really have done. It looks like everybody's gotten all in. So with the Raiders, we got to start off with Davante Adams. Just what have you seen from him this training camp? It seems like every time I saw one of your tweets or some of the other great Raider reporters out there, you would see, oh wow, Davante Adams is in a different level than some of the guys that he's facing. What did you see from Davante?
Yeah, it was interesting because the hype was real. The connection with Derek Carr that goes back to Fresno State, which we all remember the last time they really played together as teammates in a competitive environment was way back in 2013. But the connection is real. The friendship is real. The trust is even more real than you can imagine. And that's a big deal with Derek Carr. He's had some quality receivers. Don't let people fool you. I mean, he had Amari Cooper. He had Michael Crabtree. Hunter Renfrow went to the Pro Bowl. Darren Waller's gone to been named to the Pro Bowl as a tight end, and he's more of a receiver anyway. But this connection with Davante is so different than anything we've seen before because, as I said, with Derek, it's all about trust and having that trust for him to throw the 50-50 ball up there, to have that kind of feel to know where his receiver is going to be. And you saw that in training camp. We didn't see it in the preseason because those two didn't take the field during a preseason game. We saw it a little bit in the two joint practices with the Patriots. Granted, we were 2 football fields away because that's where they put the media on the other side of the field, other side of the facility. But you see the ball go up, and when it came down, you see Davante taking off running. So obviously he caught it, but he put on a show, and that's one of the things that I'm really looking forward to, is seeing how does that translate when it's real, and when they're at SoFi and going against a quality Charger defense, and none of it matters And, I've said this from day one. None of it matters if Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa are in Derek Carr's hip pocket and he can't even find Devontae down the field. So that to me is going to be the game within the game as well. But yeah, there's something different about Devontae. He's the best receiver in the game. He's not the biggest, he's not the fastest, but he is just always open and making highlight reel type plays.
Feels like you're looking over at my notes. I don't know. I think that's what I was gonna go with next, man. I was gonna ask you about that. What is the Raiders offensive line a couple years ago? Rodney Hudson. They had some really good. They had some ballers on that offensive line. Just what is the state of their offensive line right now, and how do you see it going into the 2022 season?
It's the mystery. I mean, it's the riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma. I think that's the way the saying goes. I mean, because it was one of those things where everybody knew that was the big question mark on offense. You look up and down the skill positions. I mean, you got Pro Bowlers, you got stars, you got name players, and then you look at the offensive line, and it's Colton Miller and who and what and where, and that's not a slam at those guys by any stretch. I mean, the way I kind of look at it is, it doesn't seem that long ago when camp opened, and to me, Denzel Good was going to be the key to this offensive line as the right guard. Because to me, if he settled in there, that was going to let Alex Leatherwood settle in again at right tackle, and everything else would just kind of fall into place. Week into camp, Denzel Good retires. Last week, the Raiders trade away Alex Leatherwood, so it's all this mystery that is going to need a lot of help from the play calling. It's going to be a lot of getting the ball out of the pocket early, a lot of little slants that the Raiders hope could set up the sluggo, the slant and go, which would be Devontae in a heartbeat. So it all, again, depends upon this offensive line. And I know your question was a simple one. What do we expect from it? I don't think the Raiders even know until they get out there and the action is live. And by that point, you just kind of go. I mean, there's times last year, I remember Josh Jacobs talking about, he was watching film and there were just no holes, no lanes for him to run through. And he stops the film and looks at his coach and says, "What do you guys want me to do? There's nothing to do here." So I would imagine Derek Carr would have a similar feeling if he can't look down the field, because Khalil Mack, another one of his best friends in the league, right? And Joey Bosa, who said the quiet part out loud last year after the game in LA, it's going to be real interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely. Speaking of Khalil Mack, is there any buzz going on about the Raiders? About, I mean, him obviously being a former Raider and now he's a Charger. Because I saw him in the locker room on Monday and he had a Charger sweatshirt on. I'm like, that looks so weird. That's Khalil Mack. That's the Raiders. That's a former Bear. Like, it just felt weird seeing him in a Chargers sweatshirt.
It was weird because they faced Khalil twice since they traded him, and there's a lot of things that John Gruden did that you can criticize him for. The Khalil Mack trade, I'm not so sure, because he was holding out. I mean, he was still under contract. Granted, he deserved to be paid, but he was still under contract. He was on the 5th year. They picked up his option. They were going to take care of him. I've had numerous conversations with the owner, Mark Davis, about what the plan was going to be, and he just wasn't going to show up. And it just basically was the Raiders blinked, and they didn't use those draft picks very well. So at the end of that day, but they did play him twice. They beat him they beat the Bears, and Khalil especially was basically shut out by Trent Brown when Trent Brown decided to play in London a couple years ago. And then last year the Bears came in, and it was, ironically enough, it turned out to be John Gruden's last game as head coach of the Raiders. And after he sacked Derek Carr at that point, he threw up a big O to the crowd, which is the universal sign for Oakland at the old Oakland Coliseum. So it was almost like he got his payback. The Raiders beat him, so they were 1-1. But Khalil Mack's still in the NFL, and John Gruden's not. So I haven't felt any sense of that yet. It's been more about the Raiders and how can these pieces that they put together actually perform on the field against real live talent, because we don't know. We haven't seen it all preseason.
Exactly. And speaking of, obviously John Gruden's out, Josh McDaniels comes in. Just what changes have you seen from this team with Josh McDaniels now at that helm? And obviously, I think it's Patrick Graham at defensive coordinator.
Yeah, it seems a lot more disciplined. Again, and it's hard to judge, but you look at the raw numbers and you say, okay, here's what I see. I see a more disciplined team, a team that's not committing so many penalties, or at least getting called for so many penalties. And a team that didn't commit any turnovers in the preseason. Now, mind you, this was with second, third stringers and guys who didn't make the team and are no longer in the league on the field. But the philosophy is the same, and that's going to be a trickle down, or actually a triple up effect, when the starters get out there. So That's what I've seen, is a more disciplined team that went undefeated in the preseason for the first time in franchise history. So if they get a trophy for that, they'll take it. But I think at the end of the day, they also realize that it doesn't really mean anything. It's just about setting a new standard, getting the culture right, getting the culture differently. And you hear that all the time when there's a coaching change, right? I mean, oh, we're getting the culture right. We're doing this. Oh, no slam to anybody in the past. Well, obviously it is. It reminds me, and I don't even know if
Yeah.
you know the movie Cocktail with Tom Cruise, where he
Actually, I
breaks up with
do.
his where
I
he
do.
breaks up with his sponsor, and she
Yeah.
says, I don't want it to end badly. And he says, it always ends badly. Otherwise it wouldn't end. And that's kind of the same thing with coaching changes.
I love that. I love that. Speaking, that's a good reference. Hey, Tom Cruise making a comeback. I see. Well, not a comeback.
Yeah.
He's always been at the top. But I don't know if you enjoyed the new Top Gun movie, but I thought it was
Two
pretty
thumbs up.
good. There
Two
you
thumbs
go.
up
There
from
you go.
Maverick and Son of Goose. Yes.
Exactly. Paul, speaking about the defense, it feels like it's Max Crosby and Chandler Jones at the top, and there's kind of a space between the next talent there. Is that a fair assumption that I'm making?
Well, it's interesting because literally those guys are on the front line of defense, right? And then there's the gap between the linebackers. Well, who's the middle of that defense is a Pro Bowler, Denzel Perriman. So Denzel Perriman, who you guys know very well with the Chargers,
good guy, very good guy.
had a great season, and he always reminds everybody to stay hydrated. So I'm sure he saved a few people from passing out last year at least during training camp. Oh yeah, Denzel said to stay hydrated. But is he a superstar? He's a Pro Bowler, and he's an entertaining character, and he kept that defense under wraps last year, so to speak. But then when you look at the secondary, it's very, very young. Nate Hobbs is an emerging star potentially as a slot corner who, with the new depth chart that came out, he's listed as a starter on the outside, which is interesting because they basically revamped and rebuilt the whole cornerback room with Rock Yassin coming in. They trade away Trayvon Mullen. So it's real interesting to see that. I mean, you're right. It is top heavy on defense, but those two things, as any football person will tell you, pass rush helps out coverage. Coverage helps out pass rush, and they work hand in hand. And ask Khalil about that, because that's all Khalil would ever talk about back in the day. And you mention it to anybody, and they say the same thing.
So, I mean, and you talk about Chandler Jones and Max Crosby. How is their partnership kind of come together? Does it look like it's going to be what it's been billed as them being one of the better duos in the NFL?
Besides being a bromance that you couldn't have written about, I mean, these guys go on and on about how much they've loved each other for so long, and they would text each other after games when somebody would have a good game. They never really even knew each other until they got in the same room, but they appreciated each other's sack approach to rushing the passer, put it that way. And it was interesting because, the forgotten guy in all this is Clelin Ferrell, the number 4 overall pick of the 2019 draft.
Mm-hmm.
And when he came in, he and Max Crosby, they were salt and pepper. That was their whole thing. So when Cleveland spoke a couple of weeks ago, he said, yeah, I'm still pepper and Max is still salt, and Chandler, well, he's Old Spice. So now they kind of got this little thing going where they're all trying to have their nicknames and things to go. So that friendship that's quickly developed between Max and Chandler, there's other guys in that group too that kind of come along and play their respective parts. So again, the defense, the way I look at it, it's very top heavy. The depth is what's going to be the challenge there, to see what the depth is and how good it really is.
And you spoke a little bit about Josh Jacobs a little bit ago, but the run game, what do you see with that? I mean, I know they let go of some running backs and everything, and they still have Josh Jacobs. How do you feel like the running game will establish itself? Even because obviously you have the big names at receiver and at tight end, but they're going to need the run game to really kind of open that up. But how do you see the running game developing so far?
There's a reason they kept 6 backs, 5 running backs and a fullback. So they're going to run the heck out of the ball, and Josh McDaniels loves his running backs. So you're going to see a lot of backs catching passes out of the backfield. You're going to see a lot of guys running into the line of scrimmage. The eyebrows really went up in that Hall of Fame game when Josh Jacobs had such a heavy workload early.
Yeah.
Didn't play again the rest of the preseason. But it was like, ooh, what's going on here? Is he trying to prove something to McDaniels and the new regime that, hey, you should have picked up my 5th-year option? Or were they putting him on a trading block? At the end of the day, they're going to need him, and they're going to use him. And Zamir White, who they use a draft pick on, and Britton Brown from UCLA by way of Duke, or from Duke by way of UCLA, however you want to put it. He made the roster as a 7th-round draft pick. And then Brandon Bolden is a Patriot. So they bring him in because he knows the offense. Then Jakob Johnson is the fullback. So they've got so many pieces, almost at the expense of offensive linemen, because they only have 8, or at least for their initial 53-man roster, they only had 8 offensive linemen on it, plus some guys on practice squad, but only 8 on the initial 53-man and 5 running backs and a fullback. I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's like, how do those two things jive? Well, I think with Josh McDaniels' offense, you're going to see that right away.
So you feel like it could be a little bit of Brady-esque of throw it down to check down. So the running back by committee, basically whoever has the hot hand is going to get the ball.
Yeah. Well, and you just said a dirty word in the world of Derek Carr. Check down. What's that? But if that's what they have to do, that's what they're going to do. And yeah, it's going to be, running back by committee is kind of the easy way out of here. But when you look at it, I don't play fantasy, but I'm asked a lot of opinions on fantasy for our website, ESPN.com. And I'm like, dude, I would just buyer beware with the Raider running backs, because I don't know who running back 1 is going to be in terms of your fantasy stats. In terms of real stuff, it's whoever the hot end is that day.
2 more, and I promise I'll get you out of here, Paul. We appreciate it. Paul Gutierrez from ESPN. Like I said, OG, Compa, everything. Paul, Darren Waller, I know he was nicked at the beginning of the season, or at the beginning of preseason and everything. Is he 100% healthy going into this game?
Yeah, and it depends. Again, the report came out from our ESPN, my compa, right, at ESPN, Adam Schefter, that he had a hamstring. I had seen Darren a couple times at Las Vegas Aces games, where he was sitting there courtside on the baseline checking out the WNBA favorites. And nobody will call it a hold-in, but at the same time, something was up. Nobody would go on the record and say exactly what it was. But if you're going to say he was dealing with a hamstring issue, okay, well then why force that if you know or you feel you're going to get a new contract? And in the middle of all that, he fires his old agent, which was LeBron's people. Now he's with Drew Rosenhaus. And the last time the Raiders had a high-profile client of Rosenhaus, that was Antonio Brown, and that didn't go so well. So Darren Waller's a different guy, though. He's spoken in the locker room about how he just wants to get this thing wrapped up. And even if it doesn't, he's still going to be out there on the field playing. He's going to honor his contract. There's just something wrong when you look at him and you look at his skill set, you look what he's able to do on the field, you look what he's done on the field, and he's only the 17th highest paid tight end in the NFL. So that's what's got to be fixed, I think.
And this weekend, Derwin James against Darren Waller is going to be a great matchup. Paul, I don't know if it's too early, but I got to ask you, prediction time, who you got this weekend?
It's simply because there's so many unknowns with the Raiders. Again, if we were just looking at this thing on paper, I would say it would be the Raiders, because the Raiders beat them the last time and, kept the Chargers out of the playoffs. But I know I'm going to get some hate for this, but I think I got to go with the Chargers, simply because the Chargers are a more known commodity at this point, and they added things to a known commodity. The Raiders added some things, but you don't know, because it's a new regime, it's a new staff, it's a new philosophy, everything is brand new. So I'm going with the Chargers in this one.
There you go. Paul, before I let you go, I got to ask you, how excited are you for Cobra Kai coming out with their new season? This is Paul, for the people who are not able to see. It's Paul dressed up as Daniel LaRusso for Halloween. This is honestly, it is so awesome that you did this. Our producer Vic, he's a Raider fan. And he told me, dude, you have to ask Paul about Cobra Kai and everything. So I got to ask you, how excited are you for season 5?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. The coolest thing about it to me, and again, I don't know if Charger fans want to realize this, but in the original Karate Kid, when LaRusso gets beat up by the Cobra Kai and they're all in their skeleton outfits, what jersey is LaRusso wearing at the Halloween party? He's wearing a West Chandler jersey.
Oh, West Chandler.
West Chandler.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, does that then mean that Cobra Kai are members of Raider Nation? I don't know. All I know is that Billy Zabka, William Zabka, Johnny, he follows me on Twitter, as does Chosen, Yuji. So
wow.
I've asked those guys in direct messages. They haven't really responded yet, but I do know that Yuji has his own restaurant up in Seattle. And when the Raiders go up there the weekend after Thanksgiving, I'm definitely hitting up the restaurant and yeah, we'll talk some Cobra Kai, but phenomenal. It's cool. I mean, I was 14 years old when the original movie came out, and it's been something that's kind of been there. And you know, I've been in martial arts my entire life as well. My dad still has his school in Barstow, California, too. So it's something that's always there, and it's really cool. And I guess I'm kind of dating myself and showing my age here too, but whatever, it's fun.
I didn't hear any dates. I didn't hear how old you were. I mean, I loved watching Daniel LaRusso. I love those original movies. To now see Cobra Kai and everything, and the followings of the teachings of Mr. Miyagi to continue. I love it all. But Paul,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us, guys. Go follow all of Paul's work. He obviously great stuff coming in this week with the Raiders taking on the Chargers. If you want to go behind enemy lines, go check out Paul's work. Obviously, one of the best out there. Like I said, he's a compa. He's an OG. Paul, thank you so much for joining us and for giving us an insight on what the Raiders are doing this upcoming week.
My pleasure, man. I look forward to catching up again in person.
Dan, great stuff from Paul Gutierrez. He really breaks it down. The interesting part to me is that he says that that obviously Devontae Adams is billed as what he was advertised as, which is making every single catch, which is making plays. I mean, he's gonna be pretty tough for this Chargers defense to stop, especially if JC Jackson doesn't play on Sunday.
Yeah, that's a big question mark, right? It's like you get hyped up because we signed this amazing corner, and then it's like bada boom, here comes the first ding, and it's like, oh gosh, dang it. But I'm not, like I said earlier, dude, I'm not super worried for 2 or 3 reasons.
All right, well, hold on. Before we get into no. Before we get into that, we got to break down this team, and then you can give us your 3 reasons. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, it's your world I live in it, my boy. You don't worry. I'm just waiting to go and roll with the punches, dude.
All right. Speaking of that, let's go Chargers offense versus Raiders defense. Dan, what's one? And I think I know where you're going to go with this.
Oh, you already know. You already know it's a joke.
All right, give it to me.
If you watch this here, your favorite program, you know the only person I'm watching is that right tackle. And I'll just put in parentheses, just slightly right guard, just because he's a rookie, and we're going to see what he has for realsies now. You know what I mean? On Sunday. I'll go with right tackle more than anything because, I mean, the other one's a first-round pick high. I mean, it should be a banger, but we'll see. Right tackle is the one I want to see. Storm Norton got destroyed last year on Sunday night, and you can bet that stooge Matt Crosby is probably going to line up against them the whole game because he wants nothing, and I mean nothing, to do with Rashawn Stonewall Slater. Understand that fact right there. Understand that he got his money because he did not go up against Rashawn Stonewall Slater. So that's gonna be my matchup right there. I want to see how Trey Pipkins played. How long has he been on the team? Like 4 years already, right?
This is Trey Pipkins' 4th season.
I want to see if he's developed finally into what they thought he could be. Because I mean, they kept him around for a reason, right? So yeah. there's got to be something there that we're not seeing on game day that they see the potential of, and it can't be like just the regular stuff because half of the NFL O linemen have that same size and build, you know.
And you know what's funny is that obviously Tom Telesco, Brandon Staley, they've all said they're very excited about Trey Pipkins. They feel like sitting, watching, learning, getting to see everything. And then obviously some experience that he had last year where he played in 2 big games. They feel like he's done better. He's matured. He's grown. So they're definitely excited about him going up this season and being the right tackle. But maybe this is finally his ascension. This is finally his time to start. But Dan, when you look at somebody like Max Crosby, what's one thing that what do you feel like Trey Pipkins needs to do as far as feet or anything
that right there is the biggest thing, right? Last year, you know, you see the clips with Storm Norton, looks like a dang pig on skates. He has no idea what's going on out there. He's on his ass half the time. The problem is like some of these guys, right? As soon as they start beating you with speed a little bit, these tackles start freaking out and they'll kick to nothing. So when they kick to nothing, he has a 2-way go essentially. So he can either bull rush him after he sets him up for speed, like we saw with that Rashawn Slater versus Mac clip. He bull rushes, and chances are he's going to catch. This was against Storm. He caught Storm several times with his feet too close together, so he had no anchor, and he was on his ass and in Herbert's lap, which is a no-go. That cannot happen, dude. Then the other one is he just kicks to nothing. He cuts inside and bada boom, there's another sack for him, And it's like we can't give up these pressures for the god of lightning. The son of Odin needs as much time as he can get to lob these darts behind these backers and everybody else. We already saw what he did last year with no time. Can you imagine seriously this year if he has 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 6 seconds to throw in the pocket? It's going to be ridiculous. He's going to throw for 10,000 yards, 80 million TDs. It's over.
So my matchup to watch is going to be Nate Hobbs versus Keenan Allen. I know that Nate Hobbs likes to line up in the slot. I'm sure he's going to follow Keenan. Hobbs is a guy that he was with the Patriots. He's been a pretty good corner, but Paul even said it during the interview that he feels like Nate is their best cornerback. And so I feel like they're going to try and put him on Keenan Allen. Obviously, Keenan has had big games against the Raiders in the past. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what they're going to do. Keenan, obviously, he said it. He says he feels great. He feels like his body's in great shape. He feels like he doesn't feel like he's in year 10. He feels like he's a little bit younger. Maybe that's just because Keenan had those 2 years where he had injuries and his seasons were cut short. So maybe he's 2 years younger body wise because he hasn't taken all that. But I think that's going to be an interesting matchup that could define the game is Keenan against Nate Hobbs. Keenan, obviously, I think he's really shown that he could do it. And it's funny because I've always thought that Keenan is a good receiver, but people used to think that all he could do was slants and out routes and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think with Justin, it's shown a little bit more that Keenan can go down the field. He's made great grabs like he did against the Cowboys last year, against the Cleveland Browns. Like he made some down the field catches that were just incredible because Justin allows you to do different things. And I feel like that's gonna be fun to watch. Keenan versus Nate Hobbs is gonna be one that I'm definitely interested in. Dan, before we switch over to the defense, who's a fantasy player that you think that folks should be watching?
Zero fantasy. It's all witchcraft. I don't believe in it. I was forced to participate in a draft, which, by the way, your boy is the reigning, defending, undisputed champion in his league.
Well, that's why I need you. Give us a player that you think could go. Okay,
on the Chargers, who do you think is going to score offense?
No, before no Justin Herbert. Just give us a skilled player that you feel like will score the most points this weekend for the Chargers.
I'll go with Mike Will. He torched them last year. I'll go with Mike Will. And this is a total speculation. I'm no expert on fantasy. What the hell do I know? I just won a league. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Thank you.
Are you excited about Mike Williams this season?
Oh, dude, like there's no way he doesn't get better. Like I think you mentioned this either on the regular COMPAS or I can't remember where, but you said there was a few drops last season he had over the middle, like slants and otherwise, that essentially should have been tuds, dude. He should have had more tuds out there than everybody else. But I mean, he dropped them, and I mean, whatever, it is what it is. But hopefully this year he's been hitting the jug machine or whatever he needs. I've been over the middle.
I've been watching some of the videos of him catching slant routes now, and it looks like he's fixed the mechanics. Because last year I saw him, and I was like, even like
with his body, right?
He would do this weird thing where he try and bring it in, like he try and catch it in a weird way. Now he's doing the whole diamond and then bringing it in, kind of like Keenan does. And I feel like that's gonna help him. But okay, you give 100%. Us Mike Williams. I'm gonna give you Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler last year had 2 touchdowns in the first meeting or 3, and then he had let me double check that. But Austin,
pull it up, Jamie. Pull it up.
Austin is a guy that I feel like could really do some big things for the Chargers this upcoming season and everything. But I really do feel like he plays well against the Raiders last season. I am looking it up. In the first matchup, he had 2 touchdowns, 1 receiving, 1 rushing. In the first game, he had 15 carries for 117 yards. That was his only 100-yard rush of the season. And then he scored another 2 touchdowns in the next matchup, 1 receiving, 1 rushing. So there you go. I mean, based off of last year, guaranteed 2 touchdowns from Austin Eckler. So I'm going to go Austin Eckler. You better make sure to start him because I think with Keenan, with Mike, with Josh, with Jalen, even DeAndre Carter and Gerald Everett, Austin Eckler might come loose and he might be able to score you a couple. But
it's definitely gonna be interesting just because it's a completely different scheme, different head coach. Like it's not the same Gus Bradley system that obviously the Chargers were used to just because he had a tenure there. So it's gonna be. I still think it's gonna be a fight. Like no matter what.
It is. No, they're talented. They're talented on both. They're talented on both sides, but I'm definitely interested to see what
on offense because we already know who he is. We know who he is. We know who he is.
Speaking of the Raiders offense versus the Chargers defense, what's one of your matchups that you're going to be looking?
The one who I want to see. Did Leatherwood play tackle or
no? Leatherwood is gone. He's on the Bears.
No, I know.
Yeah, he played right tackle.
That's what I'm looking at.
Their right tackle right now is Jermaine Elamuner.
You already know your boy's in the trenches, baby. He's with the Hogs day in and day out. There's only one matchup I'm always looking for. That's in the trenches. That's it. Because the trenches, seriously, like I think the biggest thing that Derek Carr doesn't understand yet is that this is a completely different front that he's going to see. And it's filled with a lot more competent people, to put it nicely. And it's like, once you start plugging runs, oh, shoot, now I got to drop. Then it's like these guys have enough power to put him in his lap. And then you have Bosa and Mac on the side. Like,
that's what Paul said. Paul's like, a lot of people think that, this matchup is going to be won by Davante Adams and Derek Carr. Can Derek Carr even stay upright, especially if Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa are in his back pocket the whole time?
And you know what? There's no way Khalil Mack doesn't have this circled. You know what I mean? I don't think has he played the Raiders yet or no?
He's played them twice. He's won one and he's lost one.
But there's no way you don't circle playing a former team ever. Like even if you've already played them.
Well, and that's what I asked Paul is have the Raiders, do they have it circled? He's like, you know what? As of right now, not really. But I think as the days go on, maybe they'll mention it a little bit more. But but I like yours. I think that's going to be an interesting matchup. Joey Bosa against that right tackle. So but both the Chargers and the Raiders have a problem at right tackle, and Dan and Daygo is going to exploit it.
Hey, but you know where the difference is in that problem? I got the sun to voting, baby. I ain't got no problems. I got sunshine.
Oh my God. All right. Let me see. You know what? I'm gonna go Davante Adams against whoever lines up against him. I think he's gonna see different. I think
he's gonna see it's gonna be.
I think they're gonna go Michael Davis. I think Michael Davis is improved. I think Michael Davis is improved.
Size and the speed, right?
The size and the speed. I think he's improved. Yeah. I think we may even see a little Derwin James on Davante Adams a couple of times. Yeah, I think they might put Derwin. I think they might put Derwin on him. But I think Michael Davis is probably the most the kind of the X factor for them in a sense. Like, what can you do? And I'm not saying that he's the X factor, but just can you do something different and kind of help kind of slow him down a little bit. So I'm definitely going to go Michael Davis against with a little bit of help. Obviously, you're going to need that either that over the safety help or underneath. But I definitely think that I'm interested because I remember last year I said at the beginning of the season Derek Carr was very Darren Waller happy. Darren Waller was catching 18 passes.
He was on my fantasy. Passes. Trust me, bro. I know.
Yeah, exactly.
I was excited.
So I think that I wonder if he's going to get Davante happy. And if so, the Chargers need to exploit that and kind of try. I mean, if you can create turnovers, but we'll see. We'll see. But that's the matchup I'm interested in. Michael Davis against if it's Michael Davis against Davante Adams, just because Davante is that good. We've seen him in Green Bay. We've seen what he can do. We know how good he is. So I'm interested to see kind of how the Chargers defend him this weekend. Yeah. Dan, give me one X factor for the Chargers on any three sides.
X factor, low key. I don't know why. Like this is gonna sound probably stupid, but I just keep thinking about what we saw yesterday in the All In episode when they were asking about Joe Lombardi's playbook with Drew Brees, and he said it's supposedly supposedly Drew Brees said it's like the Cheesecake Factory menu. It's so large, but week to week or something like that, he only focuses on one thing, supposedly or whatever. Right?
Shout out to Matt Moneysmith for making that comparison.
Yeah, for real. Now, like Justin Herbert going to year 2, having some continuity. What? Hey, by the way, for the first time in probably his career in the past like 5-6 years, is he going to open it up? You know what I mean? Because supposedly last year, I mean, mind you, I'm a stooge. This is rumors I heard or whatever, that supposedly like he wasn't taking shots enough. They didn't open the playbook. They were trying to keep it simple, whatever, XYZ, right? It's going to be interesting to see like the difference this year. Now that you have continuity, is there going to be more shot plays? Are we going to run more screens or whatever you want? You know, I just want to see how different it is year 1 to year 2, because if they were supposedly, we already know my boy has a cannon, especially with a better offensive line or a supposedly better offensive line this year. It's going to be more interesting to see if they try and take more shots down the field and spread them out or whatever.
So Joe Lombardi's your X factor?
I'm going to say Joe Lombardi's
I
the
like
X factor.
that. I like that.
Sometimes
You're going with the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, because sometimes, right, like I said, it's a different scheme. He's facing a different defensive coordinator. It's a whole new team and everything else. Like, can he essentially stay ahead of the chains? I think that's sometimes a big problem. They get like shut down on some, you know, run up the middle with Austin Eckler. I mean, God bless him. He's going to try his hardest, but like he's not the one to go between the tackles really to punish a defense. So it's going to be interesting to see, can they stay ahead of the chains? Can they be clean and call efficient plays? Because that's what a lot of people were complaining about last year. Remember that they were calling a Drew Brees-esque offense. And it's like, well, this isn't Drew Brees, dude. My boy can throw it out of the stadium if he wants. He's better. He's 2 times better than Uncle Rico, baby. You see the mountains, he'll throw it to the moon. So it's going to be interesting to see.
I like that. I like the Joe Lombardi. I like that. I'm going to go with, are you ready?
Don't give me a stroke. Look,
I'm going to go with somebody that knows this offense very well. He's seen it before.
Are you talking about
He's been around it.
Yeah.
Kyle Van Noy is my X factor.
Oh,
I want to see what Kyle Van Noy. I know Kyle Van Noy knows this offense.
You're right.
Years
in New
Kyle
England.
Van Noy is my X factor. I want to see what Kyle Van Noy can do against his offense, and I know he knows something. I know he has some tricks up his sleeve. I know Kyle Van Noy knows this, so I'm interested. I'm gonna go Kyle Van Noy on this. Plus, I want to see where Kyle Van Noy is gonna line up. That's another thing I'm really interested in. Where's Kyle Van Noy? Where in the world, not Waldo, where in the world is Kyle Van Noy going to line up?
That's a biggie. You want to make a prediction? You want to make a prediction?
Oh,
I'll go first.
That's what we're doing right now.
I was going to say where Kyle Van Noy lines up first, then we'll go to that.
Okay, I think he lines up at both middle linebacker and edge rusher.
Oh, exactly. And both, so he goes over the guard?
Yeah.
This is why we're brothers, dude. You see what I'm talking about? Geniuses operate in the same wavelength. That's what I'm talking about, dude. No, he's a scumbag. Total stooge. Terrible in the group chat. Buries me every chance he gets. Scumbag.
All right, let's go with our predictions. Dan, I'm going to let you take the floor.
Easy. Chargers take the dub, dude.
All right. Okay, you said it easy. I'll go Chargers 34, Raiders 27. I'll say that the Chargers. I'll say that the Chargers. No.
For comfort.
Well, I mean, I that's
no. I don't care. I mean,
no, I know that's how this division's gonna be. I believe.
Yeah.
And I really do think that this is gonna be a close game. But I feel like the Chargers will take this victory and they'll start off the season 1-0 and then look forward to Kansas City on a short week on Amazon Prime football opening
day. Oh my God. And we have practice, dude. That's wild.
That's
my
God. That's going to be interesting.
All right. We'll be fine.
That's going to be interesting. Well, folks, thank you so much again for listening to What's Up, Bolts?
Thank you for the enthusiasm.
2. We're so excited about this podcast. This is
hyped.
Shout out to Karen. Karen told me as soon as she got this, she DM'd me and said, I cannot wait for Dan and Daygo to get me fired up for Raider Week. She still knows it as Raider Week. So hopefully, Karen, Dan, and Daygo got you fired up for Raider Week. We hope that you guys are all excited.
Marty, we love you.
Guys, don't forget our Carne Asada, Compas Carne Asada episode on Compas on the Beat. Check that out. Check out Gilbert's. I know this is coming out the day of the game, but still check out Gilbert and Vic the producer. They break down everything you need to know for the Rams versus the Buffalo Bills. That's going to be a good matchup. A lot of Dan, I predict a lot of tables will be broken in LA that day from Buffalo by Bills Mafia. That's going to be a lot of fun to
Fernando, get the tables. Even brought in some WWE.
Exactly. Guys, don't forget, we still have a lot more next week. Triple G takes on Canelo Alvarez. We have the interview on Combat Compas. So remember, check out Combat Compas, House of Horns, Compas on the Beat, and What's Up Bolts. We appreciate you guys rocking with us. We love you guys. Thank you guys so much. And we'll be back next week. It's going to be a shorter week. So we will release the episode next week on Wednesday morning. So you guys have enough time to prepare and get ready for Chargers versus Chiefs. I'm Fernando Ramirez. He's Dan and Daygo. And thank you guys again for joining us.
Vámonos.